everybody. Welcome to 1 plus 1 makes 2, episode 12. Well, today I'm going to do something different. I'm going to stand up while I deliver these jokes to you in hopes that you really envision me as a legitimate stand-up comedian. Our mother of all mothers, Mother Nature, has volunteered to critique my performance. Thank you, Mother Nature.
Oh, anytime, Bob. Hey, how do you like the botanical print on my spandex jeans?
Well, yes, they're beautiful, though I was observing them more as a erotic constrictor rather than jeans. And representing a flower child in a new way. If you could be my flower child, well, Mother Nature, I'd be happy to be your pedophile.
Sorry, pervert. Looks can be deceiving since I'm really 4.5 billion years old, but I am enjoying this stint as a vivacious flower child / lady. And as such, if you're willing to buy me a box of popcorn and a soda, then I will be more than happy to critique your performance here today.
I just happen to have those 2 items for you. Just sit down here and enjoy the show.
Marvy, Bob, go for it.
Okay, listeners, did I tell you about this little restaurant down in Panama City, Florida? A fashionable place at which I had made a reservation. I was enjoying a delicious dinner when I overheard the gentleman at the next table order a lobster tail. Well, the waitress proceeded to sit down next to him and said, "Once upon a time, there was a handsome red lobster." Well, it was interesting as far as fairy tales go, but I was leaving then, so I really never know how it ended. The next night I went to a bar and wouldn't you know, in walks 2 eggs, a sausage, and a bagel. Not your usual foursome. One of the eggs asked the bartender, "Hey, how about serving me and my friends with a cold one?" Well, the bartender looked him over for a moment and said, "Sorry, we don't serve breakfast." It was an interesting trip. The next day, I was running low on cash, so I went to a bank there in downtown Panama City. And would you believe, while I was there in the bank asking the teller to cash one of my checks, this young fellow walks in wearing a mask with a gun in his hand. And I was the only customer in the bank. Well, he commands the teller to give him all the money. Well, the robber didn't know it, but the security guard was just returning from lunch, and before he entered the lobby, he saw what was going down. So he sneaked up behind the robber, stuck his gun into the robber's back, and said, "Son, don't you know what you're doing is illegal?" Well, there was a short interval of silence, and then the boy said, "Oh, I forgot." Well, the security guard had to let him go. He just forgot, so he escorted him out the door and handed his gun back. Well, speaking of criminals, I just heard on the news a short while ago that the devil was arrested and charged for possession. Why, that no-good Beelzebub, I hope he gets what he deserves. And now for some Zen internet philosophy. Question: if nobody likes your selfie, what is the value of the self? And remember, to see a man's true face, look to the photos he has not posted. Listeners, I ran into a friend of mine the other day, and he asked me, "Why did the chicken cross the road?" Well, I thought about it for a moment, what he said, and it made me upset. So I told him, "I don't know, but I sure hope that road gets revenge." Well, concerning some other animals, why did the dinosaur cross the road? Because chickens didn't exist. And then there's the turkey. Why did the turkey cross the road to prove he wasn't chicken. Which reminds me of just one more. Why did the fox cross the road? Because he was chasing the chicken. Hey, I got some more jokes, but I need to ask Mother Nature what she thinks about things so far. Like, am I really an awesome, stand-up comedian?
Well, Bob, I think you ought to quit while you're a little bit ahead and balance this act with a little serious something.
Okay, Mother Nature, give me a serious word and I'll discuss that a while.
Sure, Bob, this'll get you started. Spiritual.
Oh, spiritual. Well, that's a good one. Yeah, there's a... Mother Nature, I'm not sure if we have enough time to discuss that word because, there's so many shades of meaning and primary, secondary, tertiary definitions.
Well, with so many definitions, it ought to be contentious. So I'm sure I just made your day. And I'm sure some of your listeners will enjoy a lively contrariness.
Okay, I'll just start with this definition of spiritual. According to Mr. Webster's New World Dictionary, spiritual, of the spirit or soul in a religious or moral aspect of or consisting of spirit that is not corporeal, which is of the body or physical world. Now, its third definition is refined in thought and feeling, followed by the fourth definition of the church, of religion, sacred, devotional, and its fifth definition, spiritualistic or supernatural. Well, Mother Nature, I had a friend who had his own definition of a spiritual person as anyone who has an inane smile and a panoramic gaze. What do you think of that?
Well, as a sensual woman who happens to be just as smart as she is sensual, I'd say your friend has ingested one of my natural substances not found in a food store. And Bob, I find the spiritual to be obtuse.
Obtuse, Mother Nature? What do you mean obtuse?
Always start with the definition, Bob. Where's your dictionary?
Here's the definition. Slow to understand. Now, what does that have to do with spiritual?
Well, think about it, Bob. Spiritual has so many unrelated definitions, it says it can be secular, it says it can be religious, it can deal with the supernatural. It may just be relating to a peace of mind, content, or perhaps fulfillment. These are all qualities which can be attached to spiritual, and therefore it's obtuse, because it sure is a slow process understanding all these ramifications of the word spiritual. And one thing's for sure, Bob, it's not circumspect.
Circumspect, not circumspect? What are you meaning by that?
Well, Bob, it's not careful, cautious, or mindful. It's just which are the definitions of circumspect. Why, spiritual doesn't seem to mind. It's rather loose, if you ask me. It doesn't mind being ascribed to just a myriad of different things. It does bring to mind the word amorphous.
Amorphous? Come on! My neurons are growing weary.
Sure, Bob. It means shapeless, formless, which also reminds me of the word vague, which means undefinite, inexact, ambiguous. Why, spiritual could describe a cleric in prayer, or an atheist gazing at the sunset, or a child watching a squirrel gathering nuts for the winter.
Okay, Mother Nature, but let's at least conclude that in general it is a positive word, which can be ascribed to many positive experiences. Can we complete this discussion with that?
Almost, Bob. You left out the etymology. The origin of the word. Your listeners may be interested in the culture or country in which the word originated.
Mother Nature, we're under the gun.
What gun, Bob? I don't see a gun on top of us.
You know what I mean. We're maybe I should have said outside a locked door. We were going to be locked out of the studio until we pay for the extra 3.5 hours of time that we have used and have not paid for. Mr. Apathy sent me a certified letter.
Well, where's your panhandling outfit, Bob?
More bad news. A policeman told me I wasn't allowed to panhandle on that downtown street corner anymore. Why, he said I was desecrating the area.
Do you think a crutch with an LED light show would help?
Maybe. It's near Christmas, so maybe we'll get some GoFundMe donors to help. Right now, let's just introduce last week's winner. The winner is Imagined. And we imagine the winner is either a man or a lady from a town in one of our 50 states. And we imagine she or he gave the correct answer to the question, why are the turkeys in our grocery stores white-feathered, whereas the wild turkeys are black-feathered? Well, the correct answer that we imagine was left on our podcast answering machine is white feathers are not visible even though they have not been plucked from the turkey skin, whereas black feathers would be noticed by the customer, who would therefore perceive that the turkey was not sufficiently plucked. Well, listeners, there you have it. The contest, the correct answer, and the name of our winner. Well, can you imagine that we will still be planting a tree for our winner in Phoenix City, Alabama, in our field of winners, alongside the trees of our previous winners, bearing an imaginary name, hometown, and state, engraved on a brass plaque? Mother Nature, would you like to conjecture what the name of our imaginary winner is?
Why, yes, Bob, it's one of many.
Well, that's very good, Mother Nature. How about the name of the hometown?
One of many.
And the state?
One of many.
Well, Mother Nature, there seems to be some logic to that. Thank you for your input. Mother Nature, since we were discussing the word spiritual today, might you conclude our podcast with a spiritual, melodic, auditory effect?
Sure, Bob. I have gathered some of your fellow offspring for this occasion.
Thank you, Mother Nature, and let me state that our listeners, as well as Danny and myself, are all personally grateful that you are our mother and we are your children.
Thank you, Bob. And now for the spiritual composition created and performed by some of your fellow offspring.